So we're here today with Ken Mitchell, and tell us a little bit about Cowboy Poetry, how you got involved with it, and you're going to read a poem for us today, which you read the other day at a conference I was at.
How I got involved? Well, I got involved because I grew up on a cattle ranch, basically, and I was a cowboy, you might say, for a while in my teens, at any rate. I didn't stay in it. But I didn't know about cowboy poetry then, and I've been writing all kinds of other things most of my life. But about, 15 years ago, maybe a little better, my wife and I were riding. I still like to ride horses in the South Country there, along the Mounted Trail, and there was a wrangler came by. Or working with us on this trek, and we had a campfire that night, and he stood up and he said, "Well, I could do a cowboy poem for you." And I said, "Oh, I'd never heard one before, really." And he recited this poem. It was an amazing kind of thing. I said, "Did you write that yourself?" He wasn't really an educated kind of guy. He said, yeah, I wrote it. I said, "So do you ever perform with that Maple Creek thing?" He said, "I wouldn't hang out with those losers," because none of them are real cowboys. They don't know what they're doing. So I was kind of inspired by that. So I went to Maple Creek to take in one of these cowboy poetry kind of, they have an annual thing, a gathering every year there. And heard some very good and some very bad there, or very weak stuff, and I thought, oh, I could do this. I'd like to get involved in this. So I did. I started writing cowboy poems at that point.
Perfect. Well, what have you got for us today? You've got one of your best, you told me the other day.
Well, I consider this poem my best, yeah. And because it's a real, it's a sort of history, really, about my friend, the guy that I learned the most about cowboy poetry from was a rancher named Bill Gummersall, who rose, bred, and broke horses, and he trained rodeo horses, the whole thing. So he's a real master on this. Anyway, when I see him, he was 95, I think, at the time, living alone up in the top of the Missouri Plateau there, and he started reciting these poems, which he never wrote them. They were all in his head, right? And he'd been doing it since, I don't know, 1920 or something. He started doing this at what do they call this? Tent shows that they used to have, Chautauqua shows.
Oh, yeah.
That's where he developed this. So I took the message from him, and then we took him out on the road, my brother Slim and I, doing a lot of cowboy poetry presentations in libraries and schools and rodeos and that kind of thing. He was my master, my teacher. So, and he told me this story, and I said, "Bill, I'm gonna put this in form of a poem. It's called Spook."
Go for it.
Well, Bill wrangled in the early years, busting bronzes of the Yellow Fall, legend from the Cactus Hills, the horseman Gummersall. He wasn't much for rhinestone shirts or slicked up leather chaps. He packed a sheepskin coat, 303, an old Ukrainian hat. But through the Southland, he's still known for a savvy with a horse. So we'll let him tell the tale of Spook, the cowboy's tale, of course. "Well, it weren't the fastest steed I had, and he came to me by fluke. But we rode together 13 years, the gelding I called Spook. When I first laid eyes on the big white colt and his outlaw pedigree, I was breaking greens for English Sid in a corral in Galilee. The Harrisons had sold their herd, and the bank shut down their lease, and Sid put in a low-ball bit on their herd of sorry beasts. Well, this white colt was a renegade who busted all their fences. And they gelded him to calm him down, but that just inflamed his senses. Never broke him, couldn't sell him. Boy, he was a fearsome sight, breaking up the poplar poles, splinters flying left and right. Now my monthly pay at English Sid's was one horse in trade for sweat, which cut Sid's costs and built my herd and kept me out of debt. I dreamed then of a high range spread across the Cactus Hills where 1,000 horses could run free and a man could live fulfilled. Sid said, "He's yours if you break him." I started the next day. The rope hacked more in a pole corral. I gave him lots of space. Within a month, maybe less, I could lunge him either side. I worked without a rein or bit. Never trashed his pride. Well, he learned to heel like a shepherd dog. Nice spoken nonsense rhyme, taught him to lead at a gentle touch, so it took a bit of time. By snowfall, he was saddle broke, though snuffy on the bit. And then one day, Len Swanson came by, a hunter and a wit. Len offered 50, and his good bay mare. He was heading for the buttes. He wanted a big white horse built for snow, invisible to coyotes. Well, 3 days later, Len was back. Blazing eyes and back all hunched. The colt had spooked and throwed him in a creek at Willow Bunch. He said, Bill, I chased him 2 whole days till I lost him at Wood Mountain. Now he's run off with my king rope saddle. So I'm doing longer counting. You can keep the mare and the $50. Just track the bastard down and shoot him if you have to, but bring my saddle home. Well, I tracked him past the Wolvers Caves and the creeks along a big muddy badland till I found him. His white coat, raw and bloody, up a coulee on Montana side with a howling coyote pack circling in the hills above, waiting to attack. His bridle was gone. He'd rolled to scrape the saddle off his back. The cinch had twisted round his chest and was cutting like an axe. He fell in the dust, fought to his feet, struggled to rise again. Watching in the moonlight, I could feel each stab of pain. I had to edge in close enough to slip a halter on, so I started to chant the songs of old, and I kept it up till dawn. Cowboy poems and outlaw tales and nonsense bits of rhyme, and I talked to the colt of lessons learned and the trust that comes with time. By dawn, I'd cut the saddle off and applied some Raleigh salve, and as he trembled below my knife, for that was all I had, my blade sliced through the tatters of putrefying flesh that hung from its tore-up withers, a most ungodly mess. Then I tracked him home, 100 miles across the high hills and Then I tracked him home 100 miles across the high plateau till we reached the Pens at Galilee. I tracked him in alone. And I don't know if you can cut this, but I'm just going to go on.
Yeah, just keep going. Keep going.
Swanson got his bay mare back, and his $50 to boot. But I swore I'd never sell that horse, and I renamed him Spook. We didn't ride for over a year, teased the poison from his mind, and then we trained all over again until we left even words behind. And we worked together 10 long years to buy the W Ranch, rodeo wrangling in the summer, hunting coyote pelts for cash. All winter we ranged the Frenchman Bluffs and across the Cypress Hills, the Badlands round Big Muddy Lake, Montana's Quadranchi Rills. Spook was like my other half. We never had no choice because he worked for Gummersall and listened to one voice. The ranchers knew us after a while. They'd see me riding in, a fresh shot partridge in my bag, a stack of coyote skins, and we'd stay up till our eyes bled, drinking schnapps and brew and chanting poems and shooting bull and warbling tunes we knew. Now one March, along Wood River, a blizzard began to blow. The cutbanks along its coulee banks and drifted deep with snow. I left home that morning lightly dressed, enjoying the springtime warm, but by 2 o'clock the blackened sky warned of a coming storm. Pardon me. Warned of a rising storm.
It's okay. We'll just keep shooting here. It's fine.
Okay. One March, along Wood River, a blizzard began to blow. The cutbanks along its cooler banks and drifted deep in snow. I left home that morning, lightly dressed, enjoying the springtime warm, but by 2 o'clock the blackened sky warned of a rising storm. The town of Woodrow lay ahead, somewhere in that gloom. I urged my horse to pick up speed, for it had the look of doom. But the snow grew ever deeper as we plunged and fought, and I jumped off and led on foot before his lungs were shot. Across the valley, through the haze, I spied the distant light of a coal oil lamp in a farmer's shack, flickering in the night. But the coulee banks had filled with snow, impossible to cross, and the farmer's shack a mocking sign of our impending loss. We pushed along the valley ridge, fighting for each step, praying for a miracle to offer some escape, when we stumbled on a railway line that curved toward a place where a trestle spanned the dark abyss, vanished into space. The structure shook like a yearling stray, trembling in the wind. Urged my horse to the trestle's edge where all my hope was pinned. One step on it, his hoof plunged through. He stumbled back in fear and fought me off like a soul possessed, and then refused to hear. He stamped and whimpered like a child as though he'd lost his trust. And I pulled him back to the coulee bank to find shelter from the blasts. I couldn't leave him, but to live, it meant I had to go. Hunkered there, we thought dark thoughts of freezing in the snow, but he wouldn't quit. I gotta admit, not that big white horse. He started pushing at me with his head like a trainer applying force. So we approached again the wooden bridge and took another look, and I brushed the snow off the first two ties to show how they were cut. And I took a box of matches out and lit a bunch at once, a flare, so he could see his footing. And I'd give his hoof a nudge. And then, by God, he got it. And he took a couple more. And he followed me across the swaying bridge as I cleared the ties before. In a while, we reached the shack with the burning coil oil lamp, and a startled farmer took us in. Oh, I looked like a frozen tramp. Spook and I spent that night in a straw-built dugout shed, and I sank to my knees and thanked the Lord for a horse that used his head. He weren't the fastest steed I had, and he came to me by fluke, but we rode together 14 years, the galleon called Spook. Thus spoke the man who roamed the land on horseback every fall, the legend of the Cactus Hills, the cowboy gummer song.
Pretty good, Ken. Thank you. And you got it just about all by memory. Had to look a little bit.
Well, I had it all by memory this morning, but then
it's all right.
on camera,
Yeah, it freezes up a little bit.
freezes up. Yeah.
So you had a lot of fun with the cowboy poetry thing?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You and your brother are all over the place? And
Yeah. Well, and we've done it actually with all four of my brothers in a couple of places, and one of them won't talk, so we put a boar's head on him, and he dances. That's his contribution to the entertainment when the Mitchell boys, 5 of us, get together and we break up the others. Recently, my brother Wayne, or Slim, he's called, he and I do most of this kind of thing together as a team, and we recently acquired a musician to play with us, a fellow by the name of Johnny Two Fingers from Moose Jaw. And so we booked them as the Moose Javians.
thank you. Take care.
Yeah,
Bye.
my pleasure.